welcome to Experience Venture, Sustainability Solution Lab Transportation. I'm Mandana Abedini. If you ever wondered who is that person who is sending us all that emails and reminders and invitations, that's me. Nice to meet you all in person and welcome to this program. So we are going to first review what is going to happen today. So we are going to have the groups forming and a little bit of activity for you in the beginning. Then we're going to go through the land acknowledgement, welcome message from the CEC Associate Director. We are going to have an overview of what is going to happen in this program. And then we will have our first speech on building sustainable future at Conestoga. Then we'll have to get to know the Climate Action Waterloo region and Transform Waterloo region, which are actually our host venture for this program. Then we will have our break, and at the end, you will get to know what is going to be your challenge in this program. So first of all, we have the group forming. So fortunately, you're already sitting with your teammates, but we have a little bit of activity for you. We are going to give you 5 minutes to, start introducing yourself to your team members and to find 5 things that everyone in your group has in common, and then we will ask you to share that with us. So you can start. I think your time is up, so I'm gonna start with group 1. Are you ready? Okay, tell us.
Who's gonna say it? I won't do it.
I'll say it. Okay. So the 5 things that we have in common is that we're all students at Conestoga, obviously. Number 2 is that we all love music. We also all have been to the US at one point in our lives. We all struggle to find this room, getting here. And then the last thing is that we all love nature in some way, like hiking, kayaking, walking, I don't know. Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, yay for group 1. Group 2. Yes, please.
The 5 things that we had in common were, number 1, we were from Conestoga. We all love cooking. We all love dogs, sushi, sleeping. What was the last one? Was that 5?
Yeah, I think it's 5.
There we go, that was 5. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So let's go to group 3. I'll leave it here.
Okay, so for group 3, we all are from Conestoga College, Dune campus, 3 of us. We like movies. We like watching movies. We all have brothers. We like in-between weathers like spring. We don't like it when it's too hot. We don't like when it's too cold. What else? I can't remember. Yeah, we all have sweet tooths. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, group 3. Let's go to next group.
Hi. So we are all voracious readers, and we also enjoy hiking a lot, especially in the autumn. That's all our favorite time of the year. After that hike, we might enjoy a big plate of pasta. That's all our favorite food. And lastly, we all want to leave the world a better place than what we found.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. That was really inspiring. So thank you, group 5.
So we all have brown eyes. We all, of course, go to Conestoga. We're all past our first year. It's our first time here, and we're all excited.
Thank you very much. So last but not least, group 6. Yes, please.
So we all go to Conestoga. We all wear glasses. We all own phones.
Okay.
We all have dark hair, and we all love music.
That's perfect. Simple and perfect. Thank you very much, all the members, for contributing. So before we start reviewing our program, we would like to take some time to acknowledge the land we all reside on. I'm going to read the official land acknowledgement of Conestoga. At Conestoga College, we would like to acknowledge that in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and Brantford, we are located on Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Haudenosaunee people of 6 nations, which includes 6 malls on either side of the Grand River. This is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral peoples. To recognize the land is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory we reside on, and a way of honoring the indigenous people who have been living and working on the land for thousands of years. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral people. So next, I'm going to invite Christian Snyder, Associate Director of CEC, Conestoga Entrepreneurship Collective, to give us a speech and welcome all of us to this program. Please. I don't know how I can put it back there.
I was just back there furiously writing the speech, so we'll see how it goes. First of all, so I'm Christian Snyder. I'm the Associate Director here at the Conestoga Entrepreneurship Collective. Normally this would be Rose Masnak who would be doing this, but she's away currently in BC at UVic, I believe, with the Eye to Eye program. So I'm taking her place, but I wanted to start off by just acknowledging and thanking everybody who's involved with this program, outside of course, myself, but there's Mandana over here she is our program manager of Experience Ventures, and this doesn't happen without her, so big thank you to Mandana for that. Laura Matheson at the back there as well is our Director of Sustainability here at Conestoga. I believe, Laura, was it you who actually put us together with the Transform Waterloo Region? Yes, okay, wonderful. And of course, big shout out to Transform Waterloo Region as our host venture here as well. So that's huge. And then the John F. Wood Center at the University of Guelph is going to be providing the solution ideation training in week 2, I believe. So thank you to them. So, the CEC. The CEC. Does everybody know who the CEC was, or did you know what the CEC was before Experience Ventures? Yes, no? Sort of show of hands quick. No. Okay, Laura, thank you. Okay, so the CEC, we see the CEC as sort of the heart of entrepreneurship, if you want to call it that, at Conestoga College. So what we do is we have a number of different labs in applied research. We have an incubation lab for businesses. This can be everything from skilled trades to tech to you name it. We have a gig lab, which is our freelance lab. So if you've got a set of skills, if you want to call them that, that you picked up here at Conestoga College. So if you're a designer and you want to do that freelance, if you want to be a digital nomad and you want to learn how to run your business that way, that's what our gig lab is for. And then there's also a sales lab that teaches you how to do selling into it's B2B tech sales. And a lot of folks, that's a way for them to basically interface, if you will, with the innovation economy. And so we've been doing this for about 7 years. And Experience Ventures for us, we started doing this, last year was our first year. And the reason that we picked up Experience Ventures is because it filled a void for us right at the top of the funnel. All of our other labs are pretty heavy commits, if you want to call them that. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort to be part of that, but we wanted a space where people could kind of dip their toe into entrepreneurship. What is it like? What are some of the tools? What is it like to be a part of this ecosystem? Who am I going to meet? What are the conversations that I'm going to have? And that's what Experience Ventures has really done for us. So I'm going to leave you with 2 thoughts about Experience Ventures and what you're going to be doing over the coming weeks and what you're doing here. So I want you to do 2 things while you're here. The first one, be curious. Please be curious. Every good entrepreneur, and you may be an entrepreneur and you may not. You may want to continue with some other things and you may not. But while you're here, please be curious. Look around you, question the things, dig into it deeply. Yes, you can use ChatGPT from time to time. I didn't say that out loud. I'm kidding. But be curious. Learn about this stuff yourself. That's really the number one trait of anybody who is an entrepreneur. So do that. And the other part of it too is really enjoy the process. Enjoy learning. If I could go back and unlearn everything that I have learned and start over again from zero and relearn these tools and have these epiphanies that you're going to have over the coming time, I would. I would love to do it all over again. So enjoy the process while you're going through it. Take everything on board and just have a really good time if you can. So thank you so much for being a part of this and listening to me for these 5 minutes, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you so much. Moving forward, we are going to have a quick overview of what is going to happen in this program. We are going to spend 5 weeks together on this journey, and I think you've already seen this table, but if you haven't, it's fine. We are going to review that together. So on week 1, which we are now, we had the kickoff meeting happening here. So next week we are going to have our first training session, which is solution ideation delivered by Wood Center. It's going to be a virtual session, but it is mandatory for all the participants. So see you next week from 5 to 6 p.m. And then on week 3 and 4, we have drop-in mentorship sessions. While you're working on your solutions, you might come up with some questions or things that are unclear for you, or you might want to check on the solutions you're working on. So thanks to Hasi and Kira, they will be available in these 2 sessions. If you can bring your questions and your concerns on anything to those sessions, and consult with them. These 2 sessions are optional, but I seriously recommend you attend them and have a chat with the experts in the field. And on week 4, we have our next training session, which is pitch presentation. By week 4, we expect you have prepared the first draft of your presentations, and then we will have this training session for you to how to present your ideas, how to pitch your ideas. And that will also happen from 5 to 6, and that is also virtual, but again, that's mandatory. And then on week 5, the exciting week, we have another in-person session in the same place. So I think that time you will find a place easier than this time. So again, on week 5, we are going to review all your presentations and all your solutions, and our panel of judges will actually review and give feedback to your solutions. Any questions here? So what will happen after the program? So after the program, all the participants in this program will receive an honorarium, as we mentioned before, upon successfully completing the program by attending all the mandatory sessions and presenting the solutions. And the payments of the honorariums are expected to be completed within 1 to 2 weeks after the completion. Another thing happening after the program is completion certificates will be issued by CEC, and you will receive the soft copy of the certificates, and the printed certificates are available upon request. So if you want them, you let me know, and we will have it prepared for you. And the last thing is that this participation will be recorded in your co-curricular records, and this will happen by student engagement team. Again, that will take around 1 week upon completion. So this is all the things that will happen after the program. Any questions here? Perfect. So next, I'm going to ask Laura Matson, the Sustainability Director at Conestoga, to help us go through how we could build a sustainable future at Conestoga. Please, Laura.
Okay, well, much like my colleague, I was also at the back furiously writing a lot of notes down too, which I don't think bodes very well for procrastination. But anyway, you've all been there, I'm sure. Mandana, I want to thank you so much for inviting me today and for putting this challenge together. This is one of my favorite programs at the college, and I absolutely love having the opportunity to come here to speak with you all. I also really liked hearing a little bit about everybody, and I hope I get to know all of you a little bit more over the next 4 or 5 weeks. Definitely connected with a lot of groups. I also love hiking. I think we heard that from a couple, with a big bowl of pasta afterwards, and definitely am hoping that my work and my time here, positively impacts the world, and I'm really looking forward to doing a little bit of that with all of you over the next few weeks. So, to begin today, I wanted to come here to share a little bit about Conestoga's commitment to sustainability, and then I'm going to connect that to the work that you are all about to embark on in this program. Does that sound okay? Yeah, everyone's still with us? Good. Okay, so next slide here. I guess I'm doing my own. Perfect. All right, so at Conestoga College, sustainability is a strategic commitment, okay? It's one of our 3 goals, along with quality and capacity. Sustainability is in there as well. And how we theorize sustainability at Conestoga is in its most robust or holistic sense, which you may have heard referred to in your classes before or other studies as the triple bottom line. Anyone nod if you're like, yeah, triple bottom line. Know about that, no big deal? Some people are like, not so sure. Okay, I'll give you a real quick one, real easy. People, planet, prosperity. Okay, and that really aligns well with our mission at Conestoga because, of course, we want to make sure that we're elevating social equity, we want to minimize environmental harm, and we want to do so by promoting the prosperity in the many communities that we continue to serve in. Okay, so that really is an overarching strategic commitment on the part of the college. Now, that being said, how do we actually live this work? How do we action it at the college? And this is where I'm so excited, because it's not just written in some far-off corporate strategic plan. What we've been working on over the past 2 years is putting together Conestoga's inaugural Sustainability Action Plan. And this is work that has been truly a collaborative effort, a community effort. We have had the opportunity to engage with hundreds of students across our campuses, with faculty, with support staff, with management, with community partners, to see how we can take that strategic commitment and move it to action. And so what we've come up with over the past 2 years, again, by engaging with our community, we've also done a lot of research to find those best practices, is that we have a plan that has 27 actions for a more sustainable Conestoga. And we'll be launching that plan officially later this month, and there's some information coming up because I would love to see all of you at our webinar. We also have a microforest planting event, which we're doing in collaboration with Sustainable Waterloo Region. So I'll share some more details about those opportunities, and we would love to see you as part of them. Now, as I said, 27 actions for a more sustainable Conestoga. These actions span 4 interconnected domains or pillars. These pillars include operations, it includes academics and research, leadership, and community engagement. And you'll see the connection between this opportunity and our sustainability plan in a couple slides ahead of us. Okay, so whole institution approach for sustainability at Conestoga, and that's something that I'm also really proud of. I may be the quarterback, I call myself, at Conestoga in terms of sustainability, but I'm not the only champion. Sustainability is something that I don't just do in a silo, in isolation. I work collaboratively with every department, with many individuals across the institution to embed sustainability in the work that we do, in the studies that you guys take. And the reason we're taking this approach instead of stuffing it in a closet is because we recognize if we want to create a culture of sustainability, we want to shape mindsets for a more sustainable future, we need to work together. This is collaborative work. Okay, so again, that plan will be launched later this month officially, and the invitation is there. I would love to see you at the webinar so you can all learn more about what we are committing to. Now, to hold ourselves accountable and to make sure that we're transparent in sharing our progress along the way and opportunities for continuous improvement, we have a lot of mechanisms in place, but one of them is by joining the SDG Accord. Anybody know what that acronym stands for? SDG? Careful on this one, yeah. Fabulous. Okay, thank you. The Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, so the SDG Accord was launched, gosh, I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, you two in the back, I believe it was 2017, and it was endorsed by the United Nations. It's an accord for institutions of higher education, so universities, colleges, who are committing to advancing sustainability and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, in their institutions. And so we're really excited here at Conestoga to become a signatory this spring. We have put our first report forward, and we're actually featured in the global report for sustainability for some of the collaborative work that we're doing with the universities in Waterloo. So some really great stuff going on. Okay, so I want to keep going, or I'll keep chatting for probably way too long today. If you can't tell, I was a former faculty member, so I love any opportunity to get up here and to talk with our students. I did want to share this image with you all, the Sustainable Development Goals, in sort of greater clarity. You can see here we have 17 interconnected goals. Now, this was a global agenda that was created by the United Nations, endorsed by all 193 member states back in the year 2015. The whole point of the 17 interconnected Sustainable Development Goals is to provide some sort of roadmap to achieve more peace, more prosperity, more progress around the world. Time is ticking on these goals. They did put a time limit on it, which seems a little bit strange when you start to read the goals and see how broad they are, but hopefully we'll work to advance these goals by 2030, and then we'll see what the next iteration looks like. Okay, the cool thing I find about these goals is that, again, they may seem broad, but they really do work together to bring all sectors in society, whether it's local governments, whether it is businesses, or it's individuals like you, to move in the same direction, to kind of move in concert and move those sustainable objectives forward. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Now, here at Conestoga, kind of interestingly again, because we're committing to triple bottom line sustainability, you guys all remember the 3 Ps? People, planet, prosperity, right? Those 3 Ps, those actually match right up. You can map them to the individual 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So I will not revert to teacher mode here as much as I would like to, but you can take a look back at this schematic diagram and you'll see those 17 goals matching to those 3 pillars. And if you need something to help you remember this diagram, it's called the wedding cake diagram, which kind of makes sense if you look at it. Okay, cool. So again, that's where we are as an institution, really working to advance sustainability, working to advance those sustainable development goals. Now, you may be thinking, why are we doing this? What's our role? What's our responsibility as an academic institution? I mean, first and foremost, I think we have a responsibility to do this work, and we also have a great opportunity to do this work, not only operationally, but through our teaching as well. So I first want to point out the role that sustainability plays in innovation, because we're in this space with innovation. I thought this connection was entirely important for this conversation today, but you may not know it. Conestoga has a very well-recognized hub for research and innovation. We routinely are part of the top 20 of academic institutions in Canada for research. You're in really good hands here. This is very, very good space at Conestoga College. I wanted to tell you a little bit about one project that I recently learned about. We have researchers, and it's called our Smart Center, and they do a lot of work around advanced recycling technologies. They've been working with a solar company to tackle one of the biggest problems presented by solar panels, which is getting rid of them at the end of their life. Kind of seems unsustainable. You've got these solar panels on your roof, and then you're done with them, and you just toss them into the dumpster, because right now that's actually the best solution we have. It's just not simply economically efficient to recycle them. Anyway, we've got this group of researchers with the Smart Center, and they've been working so hard to come up with a more sustainable solution, and they have. They've created an on-site machine that you can take anywhere you're decommissioning solar panels, and you can actually take the solar panels apart right on the site. That way you can take all the component pieces out, whether it's copper, silver, glass, whatever it may be, and you can use those component pieces again, so you can upcycle them. This is part of what we call a circular economy. right? So you're taking objects and you're putting them back into the economy and reusing them instead of a linear economy. Take, make, waste, which is typically what we've done. Anyway, so many examples of incredible innovation and research taking place at Conestoga, and sustainability is a key driver of innovation. Now, also our students, and this is a photo of some of my students from last year. These students were incredible, and it serves as our primary inspiration here at Conestoga College. We do this work for you. We recognize that not only do our students want to attend institutions that are aligned with sustainability, but we also understand you need that type of education. Whether you are in engineering, public health, you're in an architecture-related program, wherever you are, what we are starting to see is that more employers are asking for those transversal skills, or skills that essentially go across all those fields. You need sustainability to succeed. It's not in isolation. It's not a program on the side. It's being woven through all of our programs here, and that's, again, to make you a future-proof graduate, so you're ready to go out there and meet the needs of our employers. And then last but not least, in terms of our responsibility, and I think I maybe should have led with this one, but the main reason we're doing this work is, for, and a few of you kind of brought it up today, is that we have one planet to live on, right? And this planet has a finite number of resources. We've got to do something about it. We are well beyond our carrying capacity, well beyond the tipping point, and this world can only sustain so many of us. And we're just not in alignment with that. We're not on a sustainable trajectory. I was reading an article last week about a theory or a framework called the Planetary Boundaries Framework. And if you haven't looked this one up yet, especially if you're into the environment, make a note of it. Planetary Boundaries Framework. It was put together back in 2015, again, by the Stockholm Resilience Institute. It's a group of research. Anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole, but incredible work that they're doing. And what they've done is organized Earth's sustaining spheres into 9 key life-supporting systems, so everything from climate change to freshwater availability. And they've noted just this past week that we have now exceeded the threshold of a safe and just environment in 7 of 9 of those planetary boundaries, of those categories. So again, just another piece of bad news to take a look at in the media today, telling us that we're just living beyond our means here. It's simply unsustainable. So all of that to say, lots of reasons that Conestoga is pursuing this work, and this brings me to the exciting part, that you all have an opportunity to help present and provide sustainable solutions. And this work couldn't be more important right now. So in alignment with our sustainability plan, one of our specific actions, it's under the academics and research section, number 6, is all about providing students with additional opportunities to learn about sustainability beyond the classroom space. And this is exactly that. You have an opportunity to solve for SDG number 11, which is Sustainable Cities and Communities. This specific SDG has about 7 or 8 targets that are associated with it, and another 10 indicators or so. I would encourage you highly, after our time together today, go online, take a look, learn more about this SDG, because again, you will be solving for it. Here in the Waterloo region, and Kyra and Hasti will tell us way more about this, but we have a significant challenge on our hands. And that challenge is that we're not meeting our greenhouse gas reduction goals. And one of the main reasons that we continue to fail to meet that target is transportation. If I asked how many of you here today took a car to get to the catalyst, I know some people are already looking away with your water bottle in front of you. It's fine, I'm not judging. But hear what I'm saying, right? I took a car too. Transportation continues to be this massive source of greenhouse gas emissions in our community, and we simply have to change our ways if we want to have any chance of meeting the climate goals that Hasti, Kira, and this wonderful group of people have worked so hard to put together a strategy for. So, without further ado, that is a little snippet of what you'll be solving for with this Experience Ventures Challenge. I am so excited for all of you to get started on this challenge. Over the course of your time, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you want any more information about sustainability here at Conestoga, or more broadly, I'm always up for a chat. And I will also leave you with a couple opportunities to get further engaged with sustainability at Conestoga. We have a speaker series here So you're welcome to join us at the speaker series, and maybe Mandan, I'll get you to put these QR codes up again later. And then also, as I mentioned, we have our Sustainability Action Plan launch later this month. So we would love to see you jump into this community that is so committed to sustainability here at Conestoga. And in the interim, I wish you all well with the challenge. I hope it's fun. I hope you come up with some great solutions. And I can't wait to see you all in a few weeks' time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. So I think we can move to our next part, which is getting to know Climate Action Waterloo Region and Transform Waterloo Region, which are actually the host venture for this program. I want to invite Kira, the plant manager from Transform Waterloo Region, please.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Kira, and I manage the Climate Action WR program. And so Climate Action is a municipally funded community climate mitigation program. So we focus on the greenhouse gas emissions reductions for our community. We are co-led by two local environmental nonprofits. So the first one is REAP Green Solutions, and REAP Green Solutions focuses on everything residential sustainability. So home energy audits, supporting you through retrofit and heat pump coaching services, as well as installation of rain gardens, backyard trees, rain barrels, a whole host of stuff outside the home as well. And then Sustainable Waterloo Region, another social entrepreneurial nonprofit organization, supporting organizational sustainability. So looking at all the institutions and organizations across our community, how they are managing their emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, waste, and water. And then we work really closely with all of the 8 municipalities that we have here in Waterloo Region. And so we are funded by the region of Waterloo and then the cities of Kitchener, Cambridge, and Waterloo, but we also work really closely with our rural townships. So not a lot of people know that we have a funny 2-tier municipality system here where we have the region of Waterloo, which covers sort of everyone and a bunch of our public services, including Grand River Transit, which might be applicable to the challenge a little bit. And then we have the 3 cities and the 4 rural townships making up that really complex sort of urban-rural dynamic that comes up in Waterloo Region. Again, something that might be helpful as we get into the challenge later. What we are funded to do is to engage the community broadly on climate action initiatives. We have the great pleasure of getting to join stuff like this and have fun with it. We also are responsible for measuring and monitoring our greenhouse gas emissions and progress towards our community climate action plan. And so that is the not so fun task of going to council about once a year and saying we're not on track, you've got to go faster. And then also coordinating on Transform WR. So I'll get into a little bit just about our local context here. What we're working towards and what our organization has done. So, my slides have changed a little bit as they got downloaded, so that's okay. If the fonts look out of place, I didn't do it on purpose. So we have 2 targets in Waterloo Region that have been unanimously endorsed by all 8 municipalities. The first is a long-term greenhouse gas emissions reduction target of 80% emissions reduced by the year 2050, and both of these targets have a 2010 baseline. And then the interim target for our community is a 50% emissions reduction by the year 2030. And so Transform is actually based on about a 30% emissions reduction by 2030, and from massive amounts of community rallying support and advocacy, they got the municipalities to adopt a science-backed target with the condition that we also need support and collective advocacy across the community to the provincial and federal governments to help us close that gap. 50% by 2030 may seem like a lot, but again, I mentioned it's a science-backed target. So we know that the last 30% from that 50 to 80 is going to be the hardest. And so the intention of picking a really ambitious 2030 goal was to ramp up really quickly, get some of that low-hanging fruit, start ramping up, accelerating, and meeting a pretty significant emissions reduction within this decade, but also then to leave room for the hardest 30% to close in the 20 years after. So our community's climate action plan is Transform WR, and I just want to make a small correction just so it's clear. Transform WR is just a strategy. It's a document, and then our organization is Climate Action WR, and so we are supportive of facilitating interaction and accelerating this plan, but by all means, this is a community strategy that really requires everyone. And it is a, it might be helpful as you go through our website of like everything program related for us is on the Climate Action WR website, and then everything strategy related, what's in this document, is all on the Transform WR website. So, Transform WR is based on 4 calls to action, and this is what our community can do to meet those targets. The first is to transform the ways we move. So that is where you guys will be focusing for the most part, but they're all sort of interconnected here. So transforming the ways we move is both through creating good active transportation networks as well as a robust public transit network. And then there's sort of a second action nested in there too of supporting the transition to zero emissions vehicles of all types. The second call to action is to transform the ways we build and operate our spaces. So this is both in building quality net zero new buildings as well as retrofitting and preparing our existing building stock. And then the sort of like operational facets of that to run things with low impact. The third one is to transform the ways we produce, consume, and waste. So that's that whole life cycle of what we're making, what we're buying, and where it goes at the end of its life, hopefully avoiding landfill as much as possible. And then finally, probably the most transformational one is looking at transforming the ways we relate. And so we don't always think about climate change, and we don't want to think about greenhouse gas emissions so narrowly through a lens of just purely mitigation. There's so many other co-benefits that come. And so we want to create stronger social fabric that ultimately every action that we're taking towards this plan is also creating a more equitable, prosperous, and resilient Waterloo region. And that was really came through so strongly in all the community engagement around this plan, was that we can create a better Waterloo region all around, and sort of a rising tide lifts all boats. And if we're investing this much energy into creating a low carbon community, it should also be a better community to live in with stronger social fabric. Okay. A little bit about where we're at. I kind of ruined the surprise of this. We are not on track. And like I said, I get to go to council about once a year and say that. Unfortunately, I can't wait till the day I can say we are. So our community these are 2022, this is 2022 data. We should be getting some updated data in the new year. We're currently at about a 12% emissions reduction below 2010 levels, so that 50% goal is pretty far away. We do have a lot of really sort of big transformational things that have happened, like the LRT, like some pretty big energy efficiency gains in vehicles and in appliances and everything that is going to start to hopefully see our emissions go down, but we are also a growing population. And so we picked those targets knowing the region was going to grow, but we have not done that work of bringing down emissions at a systems level. One thing I think is maybe obvious, but I'll still point out, is this really big dip in 2020. That's, of course, the pandemic and the result of the people going less places. We stayed at home. And so we saw a pretty big dip in our transportation emissions there. I say that and point it out because even though that's great, that's back to my point earlier of transforming the ways we relate to one another and having a prosperous, resilient, and more equitable community is that is not the way we want to drive down emissions, right? We want to be able to create strong cohesion, strong, vibrant communities, and also bring down emissions. It doesn't work to say we all just have to stay home and stop seeing each other. It's just not a good way to live. So even while that was sort of positive for us on this chart, it's not a positive story to tell. And so I think that's like a good example of that. As Laura kind of mentioned, the majority of our emissions, almost 50% of them, come from our transportation. And then second is our buildings, so that's both residential as well as our institutional, commercial, and industrial buildings. We have a smaller sector here from agriculture. We don't account for land use change. That would be much larger if we did. We don't have good, reliable data for it. And then finally, our waste, and the majority of that is also our landfill gas capture. And so we have some data issues with the private sector. So yes, essentially those two are smaller. They're probably a little bit bigger in reality. But we know our transportation and building emissions still make up the majority of our community emissions. So a little bit diving into the data even more. So our transportation emissions, a lot of people think it would come from how we move goods, services, buses, diesel trucks, all of that through the region would be the biggest thing, and say, oh, my personal car, my personal passenger vehicle doesn't matter. In fact, kind of the opposite. About 65% of our emissions in the transportation sector are just how we move passengers. And many of them are single occupancy vehicles driving pretty long distances into and out of the region. And then that other 35% is non-passenger vehicles and buses. The story is a bit different in the building sector. About 60% of our energy use, and therefore in the buildings category, is from industrial, commercial, and institutional. We have pretty high-tech manufacturing here in Waterloo Region that requires high heat, so it kind of makes sense there. And then the other 40% is residential, so our homes. Okay. Just leave some thought here around where we sort of have spheres of influence. This is where we like to talk about where change can happen. And so all of you sort of operate within all three of these spheres of influence. So there is your personal sphere of influence, what you buy, what behaviors you take, what behavior changes you can make, how you get around, if you own a home, or even as you're renting, what temperature do you keep the thermostat at? Do you turn off your AC at all and open the windows? All those good things. And they matter, but probably where we have a lot of bigger influence is in our public space, so the communities in which we operate. So all of you at Conestoga College, wherever you work, your faith communities, your sports that you participate in, your friends, your families, your neighbors, you have a lot of influence over those folks. And I think that's also where entrepreneurs really thrive, is in making an impact, making a ripple in that public space. So I would challenge you to be thinking about that, of the impact of these ideas really is in that public sphere of influence. And then there is also the political sphere of influence, and so that's how you engage in advocating for systems change on a bigger level. That's at least how we sort of frame taking action. And then ultimately, really, a whole bunch of different behavior change causes the systems change. I think we can think about, in transportation especially, some pretty big innovations that have changed the way that we move around our community. And so that is little sort of streams of impact to create a bigger systems change. Okay, I'm going to go through these relatively quickly because I don't want to take too much time. Transformative change number 1. So by 2050, most trips are taken using active transportation with the support of a robust public transit system. This is how we reach that 80 by 50. I know Hasti's going to touch on this one more, so I will just sort of share a quick anecdote. I was once sitting on a panel with an urban planner who said, more than the majority of our public space, our publicly owned lands, is roads. It is the biggest way, especially in Canada, that we use public space. Also, the majority of the population does not drive, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you can't drive for a whole host of reasons. And so we dedicate a lot of public land to service fairly small percentage of population. And so we can really make better use of our roads to make them safer, to redesign them, to prioritize active transportation, which means people can actually more freely and equitably move through our community. So just sort of keeping that in mind of why it matters. It's not that we need to cut all roads by any means. We all benefit from them, and even if we aren't the driver, we benefit from being in vehicles. But there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of room for improvement so that people can more independently move through the community, especially because that is a larger percent of the population. There's also sort of the flip side of this coin, as I mentioned, which is by 2050, personal and commercial vehicles are zero emissions vehicles, and there's lots of market opportunities there too. Okay. Transformative change number 3 is by 2050, businesses and homes no longer use fossil fuels for space heating and cooling and water heating. This one doesn't connect as much to the challenge, but placement of buildings and where key services are sited is a huge part of the transportation issue, is that we're not building big, sprawling communities that require us to own a vehicle to access things. So, like I said, they're all sort of nested and connected in here. The actions in transformative change number 4 relate to using less, wasting less, and no longer disposing of organic matter in landfills. And then transformative change number 5 is by 2050, Waterloo Region has a thriving local food system built on local farming and food production processing that feeds much of our community. I will say the one that I want to just highlight here is protecting our agricultural land and the local agricultural system. This means maintaining the urban-rural boundary that we have, and again, avoiding that sprawl out, designing solutions that keep us a little more compact, better built houses, better all different kinds of housing types. That means getting around is a little easier too. So that's another reason to be thinking about transportation solutions, is that protection of our agricultural land on the outskirts of our community. And then again, as I mentioned, I think I talked this one through enough, but prioritizing increasing equity through our greenhouse gas reduction planning. There's a bit of a focus on renewable energy generation and locally owned renewable energy generation in these actions. And that piece about coordinated advocacy to senior levels of government. Okay, that's all from me. So, as you embark on this challenge, I encourage you to think about that there's real opportunity for there's opportunity obviously to innovate on these technologies, but a lot of it is just using things differently and applying technologies differently and making better use of it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kira. So I guess you could use this break time. I saw you were chatting to know your team members more and maybe share the communication channels for your future sessions and, you know, your work, teamwork together. Now we're back. So with all the discussions around the sustainability And so now we are getting to the main questions, that what is your challenge, or what is the main challenge you're going to find a solution for. And I'm going to invite Hasti, project coordinator at Climate Action Waterloo Region, to walk us through the challenge and the details. Thank you, Hasti.
Hi everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Manda, for having us, and also Laura for coordinating all this stuff. We are super glad to have you all here with us to be presenting this challenge and inviting you to think on how we can reimagine the mobility in Waterloo region. So, as in the slide, in our slides, you're going to be looking at a lot of stuff you've already looked upon, which Kira explained. So maybe it's a bit of, I'm going to ask you a bit of stuff on what you remember from before. So yeah, but basically what we are doing here is reimagining mobility in Waterloo region. So as we talked about earlier, since we have been talking about SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, and how we are doing work about that locally in transportation. So SDG 11 and what it means for our communities. So we know Sustainable Development Goal 11 is the one that focuses on making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And a big part of that is the role that transportation plays. Because how we move shows how the communities grow. That's a very big and important part of that. So one of the targets of the Goal 11 focuses on affordable and sustainable transport systems, which means for Waterloo region as well, locally, to provide access to safe, affordable, and sustainable transport system, especially for the vulnerable communities, for the families, for children, for people with disabilities, people with older person. So how do we do that here? So you remember this graph that Kira had just shown previously in the previous presentation. So now what we know is how she explained also as the transportation. This is the graph that shows our absolute GHG emissions of Waterloo region from the 2010 baseline, and this is the big dip that we had in 2020. That was like 14.4% dip than we had from 2010 baseline, and then 22, it was how much percent? Do you remember? Does anyone remember what was our last GHG emission that we were talking about? There was a figure up here. 12? Yes. Yes. So the 12% was our dip in the emission reduction that happened in 2022, and 2020 was 14%. But obviously, because we got back to our normal lives, it increased by 2%, but 22 was just now. Right now, we are at 26. And do you think we are going to be able to do our 30% reduction, 50% reduction by 2030? That's our interim goal. Do you think that's possible? Do you think we are on track? Are we? No, we are not. We are absolutely not on track. So this, I'm sorry about the misplaced figure, but yeah, so this shows the trend on how we reduce our emission, and this is what our goal is, which we are not on track. So what are we going to do about it? And why transportation is a big piece of the puzzle. So as we all saw earlier as well, the transportation sector contributes 50% of the whatever emissions that we have right now. So that is also, while it contributes the maximum emissions that we have, it also shows us that it gives us the biggest opportunity to work in that sector, and which is why we are here today to present you this challenge, right? Because transportation and building are the sectors with most of the emissions. So let's focus on that and see how we can come up with ideas, with solutions, with prototypes to make a difference in this. And also for the transportation sector as well, the passenger vehicles comprises of like 65%, and non-passenger contributes 35% of the emissions. What is the passenger vehicle though? Yeah. So the car trips that we take, because like Laura was asking earlier, we all are here by cars. So yeah, passenger vehicles contribute most of the emissions, even if we feel like, yeah, it's because, and that's not personally anyone's fault, because that's how the community, that's how we have grown as community, being very dependable, very car-centric community. So that's what we are going to be working on. And if you remember, for our, we had these 4 calls to action in Kira's PPT, and that was to make the resilient, equitable, prosperous community. And one of that was transform the ways we move, on how we travel to places. So it has 2 of the transformative changes that we have, and one is by 2050, most trips are taken using active transportation with the support of robust public transit. And the other is remaining personal and commercial vehicles are zero-emission vehicles. So what does it exactly mean? By 2050, most cars are taken using active transportation. So what does active transportation actually mean? What it means is when you use your body specifically to move to places. So for example, you're walking, you're rolling, you're biking. That is active transportation. And along with that, we also need a very good public transit system. Does anyone else use a lot of public transportation here? Like often travel? You do? How do you feel about that? Do you think it's enough? Do you think we need the system better? Better? Because does it take you long? Because I don't own a car. I use public transport all the time. So I know how it feels like, and when you miss that bus, or when the frequency is not enough, or when you need to go to places and it's 15 minutes away and it's gonna take you an hour. So that's something that we could work on as well, right? So how can our community get there? So redesign, rebuild, and maintain the transportation system to prioritize active transportation. Also build an accessible transport system. And all of this is more so multimodal transport system. That means we have to prioritize and we have to see, thank you so much. We have to prioritize and we have to see how we can make this transport system multimodal. Like, for example, of course, if from here, I want to go to Cambridge, it's going to take me an hour or more than that. So that's not feasible. But if I really do have time, and if I want to take a public transport system, I can take a bike. I could go to the LRT, and then I could take the LRT, and then I could again take my bike. I know it sounds a bit of work, but also it's something that we consciously need to do. And what you're here for is to make all of those stuff easy, accessible, safe for all the people, right? Transition to low energy movement of commercial goods, and also make existing and new communities complete communities. So can anyone take a wild guess on what this might mean? What could a complete community mean here in this context? Any guesses, ideas? Yeah?
Subdivision with just houses, you have a place you can buy food, you have your pharmacy, everything.
Yes, awesome. Yes, exactly. So complete communities basically mean a community where you don't have to drive for basic stuff. So, for example, if you're living here, you don't have to drive for 15 minutes and go get some groceries. That means that you can drive bike, basically, and walk to places and to fulfill whatever basic needs that you have. So that is what we aim for by this transformative change. And the next is, by 2050, remaining personal and commercial vehicles are zero-emission vehicles. So how can we get there? So switch to zero-emission vehicles. And it's not as easy as we know. It's not just, this whole transformative change doesn't just mean buying a Tesla or buying an electric vehicle. It's talking about, for example, if you own a vehicle, if you own an electric vehicle, it's talking about that so that your neighbors know that, oh, it's not a high risk as people think. So it's not as bad as people think. So it's as simple as talking to people, taking part in such campaigns that talk about EVs, the benefits of EVs. If you have used that, how do you help others get there as well? It's also about, for example, seeing that there are charging stations, enough charging stations nearby in your neighborhood, so that people are encouraged to adopt those EVs as well. Build a network of charging and refueling infrastructure, build new residential parking spots with EV charging. So that is how we can focus on the transformative change number 2. So now the transformative actions in mobility. What are you going to do? How are you going to help transform the ways we move? And how is your idea going to be helping? So the key mobility actions that you could focus on is reduce single occupancy trips. So that is basically the car trips that we take. How can we do that? Like, you could take car rides, you can take car share pools. So all of those different stuff that you can work on. And then there's expand active transportation, like connecting proper trails to proper places that people get to. And then improve the public transit connections. I think I face that problem the most, is like there's no connection to transit system where I want to go as easily and as feasible. So, and also accelerate zero-emission vehicle adoption. So basically, achieving these goals require not only new technology, because we have a lot of technology, but also it requires infrastructure, but also innovative and community-driven solutions, right? And what are the barriers that you might see while you're developing your project or your idea or solution? Is that our culture is very car-centric culture. So there's a lot of dependence on personal vehicles, and as you have seen through our graphs, that contributes the most to our greenhouse gas emissions. So especially in suburban and rural areas, and it's not their fault. If I live in a small town, if I live, for example, in Wellesley, of course I'm going to be needing a car to get somewhere. That's not feasible. So what you're going to be presenting is how can we make that feasible, right? There's a lot of barriers for seniors, youth, newcomers, and low-income residents in accessing safe and affordable mobility. There's also limited awareness and infrastructure to accelerate zero-emission vehicle, because a lot of people, what I've seen is they don't adopt these vehicles because they feel like, what if I want to go, to 500 kilometers and there's no charging station, which is a valid question, right? So that's something you could think upon. And then safety and accessibility concerns around cycling, walking, transit. The other day I was just so happy about knowing that I was in a workshop and one of the participants was late, and he just came in and then he was like, sorry, I was late because there was bike traffic. And we were like, what does that mean? So that means that there were too many people on the bike lanes and there was a traffic, which is a good kind of traffic, I would say. But basically how to make that biking or walking safe and accessible. So this is going to be your challenge. Your goal is to design an innovative, practical, and inclusive solution that advances SDG 11 targets that we saw. A safe, accessible, and resilient cities through the lens of Transform WR's transportation goals. For more information on Transform WR, you can visit our website as well. You'll get all the information on all the transformative changes that we're looking for, the calls to actions, the goals, everything. So, and the challenge for you, exactly, the statement would be, how might we reimagine transportation in Waterloo region so that every trip, whether by foot, bike, bus, or car, actively reduces emission while making mobility safer, more affordable, and more accessible for everyone. So at this point, you know where we are right now in transportation sector, where we are, what our emissions are. And we know where we want to go. So you have to find out that how do we get there? That's what you're going to be working on, right? And these are some focus areas and guiding questions that you could use to develop your idea. And that is active and inclusive mobility. That is, how can walking and cycling feel more safe, more connected, and welcoming to all? That is, it is developing that culture of, biking or cycling or walking. Zero emission vehicles. So how can we make EVs accessible and appealing beyond high income households? So how can vulnerable communities adopt these? How can low income households adopt these? How can, maybe you could have an idea on using the co-ops for EV charging stations. Like a community comes together, they install a charging station, they look after it, and then they maintain that. And that's how you use those EVs in the community, small communities. And then reducing car dependence. So what mind shift behavioral change can we focus on for the approaches to help people share rides or skip car trips altogether, or also just basically share carpool. It's as simple as that. And this also depends a lot on the behavioral change that we see, because it's not just, we all have solutions. We most of the times don't do stuff because it's not very convenient. So how do we make that convenient, right? And also, how do we ensure mobility works for seniors, for newcomers, people who are coming in here, and then people with disabilities? And then how do we get people excited about transport goals? That's basically the Waterloo region's transportation goals that we have here, right? Yeah, so these are the focus areas and then the guiding questions that you could look for. So what are you going to do? So as groups, you're going to be submitting a creative, feasible solution prototype. That is, it could be a concept, program, a model, that is addressing the SDG 11 through sustainable transportation aligned with Transform Waterloo region. Also explain how your idea reduces emissions, improves accessibility, and benefits the community. And also showcasing your idea's feasibility, community impact, and potential for local adaptation. How can what you're presenting could be scaled and could be adopted in our region as well? So you have to give us all the stats, all the ideas, and think about how feasible it is to have that, right? So you could think about how does it help and how can it be implemented locally here? And what partners could make it real? Who could you partner with? What organizations could you go with to make that happen? And then what barriers could you overcome by that, right? So yeah, that is the challenge and what you will deliver. So any questions? And I'll invite Kira for any questions that you might have. You can ask her as well. So do you have any questions on that? On what you want to do? Of course, we'll have those mentoring sessions where you could come up with any of the doubts that you have. But apart from that, right now, do you have any questions or concerns, anything? This reminds me, there's a stat, there's a stat by UN that said that 7 out of 10 people will move to cities by 2050. And we don't have enough infrastructure for that. And that is just going to double the emissions, transportation emissions that we have right now. So you have to take that into perspective, like people moving, migrating, and also adding to the population. And then you have to present these ideas on how can we make that feasible, right? So it's a bit tricky, but that's what the challenge is about, right? Any other questions? Did you all like the challenge? Or is it not interesting? Would you like to work on that? I don't think you have an option, but good luck with that. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hasti. So, since we have a little bit of time left, I just wanted to let you know that there is one presentation template. I've already put that in the share folder. I think you already have access there, so you can check that template to see what information you need to be working on, and that will also help you to maybe distribute what everybody is going to do on your team. The structure of the presentation, it's on your side. You can change the structure however you want, but just make sure that the content in the slides, you consider them while you're working on your solutions. And so I don't think we have any other point left on our agenda, except we have 8 more minutes. You can spend that talking with your team, maybe arranging your next meeting or something like that. Or if you've done that already, you can leave. See you next week virtually for our first training session on solution ideation. Thank you.